Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back. It's time to get back to doing some arcade stuff. And today for something different, I'm actually in my girlfriend's arcade in her garage out here in California. Apparently people don't use their garages for their cars. They use it for storage. So yeah, it's not too uncommon, I guess. I have a few other friends that use their garage for their arcade. But anyways, I thought for something different, we'd do kind of a repair video on one of her games. And that happens to be Baby Pac-Man. And now if you guys are at all familiar with this game, and even if you're not, this game's notorious for having all kinds of problems because not only do you get the problems you would get with normal arcade games, but also pinball because it's kind of a hybrid, you know, half pin, half vid. But in her case, her problem, relatively speaking, is quite basic, and that's simply the two-player button does not work. Recently, she had some friends over, and they discovered that they couldn't start a two-player game, and this is on free play, so you should be able to start a two-player game just by hitting the button, but if you do that, you get nothing. The one-player button, there's no problem with that. So under normal circumstances, this is a pretty basic problem to have. And I thought we would just see if we can get this going and start with the basics. So let me get a tripod. We'll open up the control panel and see if there's something obvious, like a wire got disconnected or something like that. So let me go grab the tripod and let's get to it. Okay, so to remove the control panel, there is a lock on the side here. So let's just undo that. Pull this guy out here, just drops down. And let me actually zoom in here for you guys. Okay, so here's our player 2 button. That doesn't work. Player 1 works. Now, I'm just going to divulge a little bit of behind the scenes here. I've already went ahead and reflowed the solder here. Under normal circumstances, like 80% of the time, it's going to be a wire that just came disconnected. Happens all the time, especially if you're using like quick disconnects. Most commonly the ground will come undone, or it could be the regular switch wire itself. But that's not the case here. And like I said, I reflowed the solder. If I want to test continuity here, that would be my next order of business. So if I set my multimeter on and I want to test ground, ground's good. And we know that the ground is good because this button works just fine. And I'm getting just a perfectly good connection there. So I have no doubt that the ground is fine. If we want to test the switch, there's a couple of ways we can go about doing that. I like to just grab a piece of like wire like this to just jump it. And so I should just be able to bypass the switch by just completing the circuit, but I'm not getting anything when I do that. And just to prove that this works, if I do that with the player 1 button, it'd start up a game like you'll see here. You can probably hear that, but a player 1 game just started. So I'm not sure that the switch is necessarily bad, especially since bypassing it has no effect whatsoever. So I think the next order of business is to trace this wire back to the connector on the board and see if that's where the issue is. Maybe the wire came undone in the Molex, in the connector that goes to the board. Because there can only be so many things that this could be, right? It's either going to be a switch, it's going to be a wiring issue, or slim chance maybe a board issue. So let's do that. Let me reset up and we'll get the multimeter ready and we'll see if this connection is good on the other end. Okay, so here's how I have things set up. So I grabbed an alligator clip, clamped it to the player 2 start button wire, not the ground, the other one. And that runs to one lead of my multimeter. And then I've got the back door open here, exposing all the boards. And I've traced everything to this connector here. So I'm going to grab, I've got my multimeter here on continuity, I'm going to grab the other lead here. And hopefully I can do this one-handed, but we should be able to find which of these wires is that player 2 start button. So I'm just going to start poking until I get a beep here. Okay. Okay, so it's this white and orange wire right here. Right there. Okay, so I'm going to have to set this up on a tripod. And then hopefully we can take our jumper wire and should be able to get some information here. I'm going to see if I can just jump it right here and figure out which of these wires is also the ground. And we'll see what we can do with this, because this should give us some answers. Okay, so I've got my little jumper wire here. And so I found out this second wire here is the ground. I used my multimeter. So that second wire is our ground, and then this orange and white one here is our player 2 start button. So let's see if we can jump it here and get a game going. So let's see here. Hopefully you guys can see this. There we go, and nothing. So that begs the question now. It shouldn't be a switch issue at all. But let's also test this and see if we can get a player 1 game to start. Because if that works, then we know something else is going on here. And player 1 is, I believe, this button, this wire here. And, oh yeah, okay. All right, so we've got two things potentially here. Either it's definitely not a switch, and it could either be a board issue, which I think those chances are super slim, because this board that this connector's to, this board that the connector is attached to is a repro board. So the odds that that's bad, I think, are super slim. I could throw in her original board, but at this point, I think something else is going on here. So let me think about this and let's come back to it. Okay, so I think the next order of business, honestly, is to grab the manual and look at some schematics. But before I do that, I forgot, but this game has a pretty decent self-test. And I know that there's probably a switch test in there, hopefully. So before we even go to the manual, let's do that. I think this is it right here. Okay, yep. So, lamp test, solenoid test, sound test, switch test. All right. Okay, so we should be able to hit, let me try. Okay, I'm gonna hit the player 1 start here. Okay, so that gives me a 6. I don't know what that means. Again, have to look at the manual. But let's now try player 2 start. There. Okay, so that's giving us a 4. So that means the switch is good and the game's reading something, which I take as a good sign. Now, hopefully the manual will tell us what these numbers mean. But yeah, player 1 start is a 6. And that works. We know that that starts a player 1 game, and 2 is a 4. Okay, need to remember that. All right, let's go look at the manual. Okay, actually, before we look at the manual and the schematics and all that stuff, I thought it would probably be a good idea to get a picture of this connector here. So let's do that. All right, now let's go look at the manual. All right, so here is our Baby Pac-Man manual, and the first thing I want to do is look for where it has the self-test stuff so we can verify those numbers. Let's see here. I think it's past this, past that stuff. And what have we got here? Self-test switch. Okay, here we go. So if you remember, when we pressed the first player start, it gave us a 6, and we can see here we've got a 6. And for player 2 or 2-player game, we got a 4, and there's nothing here for 4. Okay, we should be getting a 3, and that would explain then why when we hit the button we get nothing, because there is nothing here. We're supposed to be getting a 3. So that begs the question then, is there something going on with the pinning of that connector? So let's see here. Let me find, hopefully they should have a good schematic here. This is where having a good manual with schematics and even a self-test really come into play. And you don't even need to really know how to read a schematic in great detail, because the wiring is usually pretty straightforward, and I'm not an engineer by any means, so a lot of this stuff does go over my head. But when it comes to wiring, it's these are really helpful, and it's not too terribly complicated. All right, so that was the MPU board. We can see we've got it right here. Let me zoom in here and let's scroll over. So here's our J3 connector. That's the one that has everything, all the start buttons and everything. And we can see here it's a 16-pin connector. Let's look at that picture I took. Got it right here. Okay, so this is our 16-pin connector. Pin 1 starts over here. That I know because I looked at the board. So we've got 3 wires here, and then it looks like 7. So let's go back. So, okay, pin 1. So here's our 3. 1, 2, 3. Then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, okay. So starting at pin 9, here's our 7, but in pin 13, there shouldn't be a wire. So I wonder if that's just our issue. Maybe this is just pinned wrong. One thing we can look up too, so these numbers you see here, I think those are going to be our color codes. So this should, assuming that that these are the original wires, we should be able to verify their locations based on these numbers, the color codes. So for instance, pin 1, it gives us a 10, and I think there's a key. Let's, I saw just right here. So let's go here. All right, so the example gives us 5, 0 is white. So 5 white, 0 no tracer. Okay, so the first wire is a 10, so it should be red with no tracer, solid red. And if we look, it's solid red. And then, number 2 should be a red and white. Let's just verify that. Let's see here. Here we go. 51. So 51 should be white and red. Okay, so that's right. So now let's go back down there. And we should be able to use this. All right, so pin 16 is 52. Okay, what we're concerned about are these right here. So pin 9 should be 54. What color is that? Should be a white and a green. So pin 9 should be white and green. Well, here's our white and green. Let's see here. Let's count this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this wire, this white and green, should be over 1 to the right, which makes sense because there shouldn't be a wire where this orange one is. There should be an empty hole there. So I'm wondering if these 4 are just need to be over 1. Let's see. Let's double check. Let's see what this one is. This is a brown and yellow wire. So if this white and green should be over, and this is slot 9 and it's in 10, what should be in its place? What should be in slot 10? Should be 63, whatever that color is. Should be a brown and a yellow. Okay, so this white and green needs to be over 1. This brown and yellow needs to be over where where this white and green is. So yeah, all 4 of these. Let's just verify. That's okay. So I'm gonna guess. So this is 16, 15, 14, 13. I'm gonna guess this orange should actually be in 12. Should be a 78. Is that right? Orange and black. Yep. Okay. So basically, there's our problem. These 4 just need to be shifted over 1 to the right, and I think that's going to solve our problem. I mentioned this or I was asking my girlfriend about this, and you know, when we're out there playing this game, I don't know if we've ever honestly played a two-player game of Baby Pac-Man. Usually one of us is playing it and one isn't. So it's entirely possible it's always been like this. But yeah, I'm sure that that's all that needs to be done. We'll just shift these 4 wires just over 1 pin to the right, and we can test that out. And actually, even before I do that, maybe I'll try jumping this brown and yellow, because this one, in theory, for the board, this is where our start button should be. So I should be able to jump this one and get a 2-player game to start if this all works out. But yeah, I think that's our problem. So let's get out there and give it a go. But yeah, it's nice to have a manual like this and the schematics. I mean, it'd be pretty easy to be pulling your hair out and think it's something else, but being able to look at it like this, and it kind of spells itself out for you. So, all right, let's go take a look. All right, so according to that, this slot right here where this brown and yellow wire is should be where the player 2 start wire goes. So in theory, this, I should be able to jump this and get a game to start. So let's see here. Hopefully this will start a 2-player game. And aha! That did it. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I know you guys can't see this, but yep, definitely started you can probably hear it, a 2-player game. So that's good. That means then what I need to do is, from where that orange wire is, that orange wire all the way up to this white and green wire, shift those over to the right, just 1 pin, and that should do it. So I'm going to do that, and then we can test it all out. All right, so I shifted these 4 pins over 1 to the right like they should be, and hopefully that does the trick. So let's go test her all out. All right, well, I put it in test mode just to verify that the wiring's right. Might as well, it's easy enough. So if I hit player 2 now, should get a 3, and there's the 3. Player 1 still gives me the 6, that's correct. So let's switch it over to the actual game and give that a test. Okay, and moment of truth. Player 2, boom. Oh, nice. Let's just see here. Everything works. Let's just die here. Make sure player 2 starts and everything's good. Player 2, that's good. All right, nice. So fairly simple fix, a little more involved here, but just goes to show how valuable wiring schematic can be, and a good manual, and also a good test mode. You know, and a lot of these games don't have that, but a lot of times it's very valuable and makes things a lot easier. But yeah, just being able to look at that schematic kind of spells everything out, and kind of also goes to show that you can't really assume anything. I just spoke to my girlfriend, and we were both kind of scratching our heads like, have we ever actually played a 2-player game of Baby Pac-Man? Usually it's just like 1 person playing, so it's very, you know, it's very possible we just didn't even discover it until having a few people over. So there you go. But yeah, so this is her arcade, and I'm planning on doing a walkthrough in the near future. I want to rearrange. We're planning to do a rearrangement of her games, and things are not too terribly messy, but you know, she's got some really cool games. It's a really cool space, and so I want to do a nice detailed walkthrough, go over all of her games, and she's even got a few inside the house that aren't out here. So maybe in one of these upcoming videos we'll do that. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully it's not that much longer. All right, catch you later.